Doesn't this illustrate, once again, Stephen, from your side of the political fence...
Hey, hang on a second, mate.
Two-tier policing, right? I didn't see the cops descending on the protesters in the same way the cops descended on protesters after Southport, OK?
Parry and Stephen Pound are here with us in the studio. Do you want to start on yesterday, Kemi Badenoch telling the Prime Minister that he has to apologise over his position on whether women can be women or not? There's one thing I hate in public life. It's when people demand apologies like it makes any difference.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the point being that we now have clarity. That's the key thing here. We're now absolutely clear. There's no equivocation whatsoever. And isn't it interesting that GBNews was so far ahead of the game on this?
Well, I like to think we made an impact on it.
Damn right you did.
This channel turned the dial on this topic.
And also, I don't want to go into details about the sort of the sanitary facilities at GBNews, but you actually have completely isolated toilets there, so it doesn't matter if
they're completely secure. It doesn't matter what you are, they're secure. Exactly. All the washing facilities, there are no communal areas whatsoever. You don't see anybody else between going into the area where it's coming out of it.
That should be the norm for everything.
Of course it should.
Easy.
But honest to God, the way Labour politicians are trying to catch up and convince us, we've always supported that. Bridget Phillison's the one that really bugs me, OK? You know,
she's the Education Secretary who's got the equalities brief too.
Absolutely. So she's trying to smash up private schools because she seems to have malice and envy against anybody who's got aspirations in life.
I'm not entirely sure where the link is.
No. And now she's standing in the Commons and saying, what's the surprise? We've always thought this. And yet there's evidence from Hansard that no, she said in the past that it hasn't always been like that.
180 degrees.
Exactly.
As has the Prime Minister.
Exactly. But I'll tell you what, Kemi Badenoch getting herself on the front of your paper, the Daily Mail, is a major breakthrough for her as leader of the opposition. So is she now cutting through?
This video is sponsored by Saily. Saily is a brand new eSIM service app. What it does is get you a local SIM card that you can use when you're travelling, so you don't have to pay those crazy roaming fees just to send a text back home. They've got eSIM plans in over 160 countries and 8 regions, so pretty much wherever you're going, they'll be able to make sure you're connected. So how does it work? Well, all you've got to do is hit our link in the description to download the app. It will work on iOS or Android. Buy a plan. You can choose the best time frame for you, and then just install the eSIM on your phone. When you land at your holiday destination, you can activate your plan instantly. Saily eSIMs only ever have to be installed once, so when you go on your next trip, you just buy a plan for a new country, turn that eSIM back on, and just like that, you could be watching the GBNews YouTube channel. You can be connected anywhere you go, and you don't have to deal with patchy Wi-Fi in your hotels. So get sorted for your next trip by downloading Saily using the link in the description below, and if you use our code NEWS at checkout, you'll get an exclusive 15% discount on us.
What is absolutely extraordinary about this is last weekend there was a massive demonstration in Parliament Square from people talking about trans rights and defacing the statue of Millicent
Unbelievable.
Fawcett, who's
unbelievable.
A great suffragette heroine.
Absolutely.
And writing fag rights on it. But who are these people? Why are they so furious and so angry? When they start talking about genocide, I mean, that demeans the word. Genocide has a very specific meaning. To actually talk about that,
I totally agree. And I'm glad
to have a picture of a noose.
And talking about death to women from the women.
Well, that's right. But the thing is, those people, they actually use the word TERF against, it's what they call trans, exclusionary radical feminism. There's no counter word.
No.
And so I just simply...
But you're right as well.
Why are people so furious?
Illustrations of nooses and ropes and hanging, and these were what we should do. But doesn't this illustrate, once again, Stephen, from your side of the political fence...
Hey, hang on a second, mate.
Two-tier policing, right? I didn't see the cops descending on the protesters in the same way the cops descended on protesters after Southport, OK? Not a sign of a policeman on the streets, not a sign of anybody standing up in the Commons and saying, this disgraces the streets of Britain and we're going to clamp down on these people. Not a word.
Those people
it.
weekend, we're not threatening to burn down immigrant hostels.
They were threatening to hang people. That's bad enough, isn't it?
We're threatening to kill individuals like J.K.
They
Rowling.
turn a blind eye when it suits them, Mike.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't know. I think there's a degree of variation there. But look, in all honesty, the police should be prosecuting those who defame. Poor Churchill. You know, it seems like every week somebody puts. All I can say is that it just shows how significant and important Churchill is.
It also shows how stupid these people are when they defiled.
But doesn't it feel the fact that he is so important that people feel the need to defame? But then Jan Smuts, who fought for, people don't remember him nowadays, but he actually led the people fighting for this country in the Second World War.
And they don't seem to realise that Fawcett was a campaign for women's rights.
I
Got women the vote.
Exactly.
And then Nelson Mandela. How could you deface Nelson Mandela?
They're morons.
Exactly, they are morons. Now,
Andrew, at best.
A little bit of breaking news. Health Secretary Wes Streeting has provided his reaction to last week's Supreme Court ruling. Have a listen.
This will be interesting.
The Supreme Court ruling is welcome because it provides clarity and reinforces what the Equality Act was always supposed to do, which is to uphold the sex-based rights of women, their voices, their spaces, their freedom, and also to respect the dignity of trans people. Now, in the NHS, there are clearly challenges. Over the course of the last Parliament, we saw far too many breaches, I think a doubling of breaches of what should always have been single-sex accommodation in the NHS. That's really important from a patient safety point of view, particularly women's safety. So there's a lot more to do in that respect. And I've always maintained that we can find a way through, whether it is on single-sex accommodation in the NHS or some of the wider issues in our society, we can find a way through that guarantees the sex-based rights of women and also protects the dignity and the rights of trans people.
Streeting speaking just this morning, but it's a little bit sort of vague, isn't it? We can find a way. Well, what is that way? What are you going to do on hospital wards now?
But I regard this as very much like the way the Brexit story was reported, in the sense that on the day of the decision, the BBC News that night didn't straightforwardly report what had happened. They led on the problems that are going to be caused by this decision. You know what I mean? And it was Brexit all over again. Oh, the terrible trauma that's now going to happen. It wasn't straightforward at all.
Mike, you do some fantastic read acrosses. Your linkages are quite bizarre. Look, the reality is, 15 or 20 years ago, you had single-sex wards in virtually every NHS hospital. Then, when you get this huge pressure on the NHS, people started saying, well, we'll have bays and cubicles within the wards. I think the reality of the situation is, I think I've mentioned before, I know a couple of trans women who actually have a quiet life, they get on with it, and they use ladies' facilities because they are, in all intents, they don't have a cervix, but they are ladies, because they don't make a great song and dance. They're not like somebody like Isla Bryson, who's a rapist who then says, I want to be in a woman's prison.
That's right.
That is the problem. These people have actually brought a very serious and a very dangerously sensitive subject into disrepute by their outrageous behaviour.
All right, gentlemen.
At GB News, we believe in the power of free speech. We're not afraid to ask the tough questions, challenge the status quo, and give you a voice. While others silence dissent, we champion the truth. So by becoming a GB News member, you're not just supporting free speech, you're defending it. Please do consider supporting us today. Together, we'll hold the powerful to account and make sure your voice is always heard. Simply go to gbnews.com/support and stand with us for what matters most.